Alright, guys, this is Mr. Grimslin here. Today we're talking about the fall of the Roman Republic. Okay, so this is not to be confused with the fall of the Roman Empire, kind of the fall of the whole thing. This is just the fall of the Roman Republic. So when we talked about the Republic, we talked about how it was kind of a democratic form of government. We had a Senate, we had assemblies, both with the patricians and the plebeians. We had elected officials, people voting on things. So we're talking about kind of the fall of that system. Okay, we're still going to have a Roman Empire after this. It's just going to be ruled basically by one person instead of kind of that democratic assembly type of thing we see with the Roman Republic. All right. So why did the Republic decline? Okay, one of the big reasons was kind of this um, economic turmoil. Turmoil kind of means trouble, economic troubles that start happening, okay? So we see kind of Rome conquering other people. This leads to the spread of slavery, because when you conquer people, either kind of you're tolerant to them or perhaps they fight back. Maybe you take their soldiers and turn them into slaves. You bring them back into your agricultural system, and they're going to kind of take the jobs of these small farmers, essentially, because the patricians, the big farmers, are going to say, hey, I can get a slave to do the work, and I don't have to pay him. I would have to pay my plebeian, okay? So the small farmers are going to migrate to the cities because they're now going to be unemployed. They're looking for food. They're looking for work. And you're going to kind of see these masses of people who don't have work. They don't have money. They're very unhappy. They don't have food. And this is going to kind of lead to some cultural unrest. In addition to bringing back slaves, the Roman armies overseas are also bringing back kind of money, jewels, gold, valuables, and this is all going to devalue the currency, which means inflation. Okay, so if you're bringing back all kinds of money, the value of money doesn't mean as much anymore. Okay, so if you're sitting in a room and someone has $1 and that's all you have between a couple of people, that $1 is pretty valuable to you guys, right? Because it's the only dollar you have. Okay, but if you have $1,000 in the room, then all of a sudden $1 doesn't mean as much because you still have 999 other dollars. Okay, so when there's more money in the system, each individual dollar or each individual piece of currency doesn't mean as much. So that's kind of what happens when we talk about inflation. It means an increase in the money supply, which kind of devalues the money and what its value is. All right, so the first triumvirate, this is going to be around 60 BCE. So basically, these three guys, Julius Caesar, Crassus, and Pompey, are going to kind of form this secret alliance. Okay, so a triumvirate means an alliance. This alliance will allow them to dominate Roman politics for a period of time. Okay, so they're going to be in the back room, kind of making the decisions, kind of moving the chess pieces around, and these guys are going to pretty much kind of control what goes on with Roman politics. Okay, so eventually Crassus will die in battle, and it's going to lead to a standoff between Caesar and Pompey. Okay, so they see that Crassus is dead, and the only thing between them and kind of having all the power is just the other guy. So Pompey kind of sends Caesar off. Caesar's off with his legions in Gaul, or at least the area near Gaul. And Caesar kind of gets his legions, gets his army, gets his people, and he kind of wants to come back to Rome. Pompey and the Senate, they say, hey, they're kind of scared of Caesar and his power and the fact that he's popular with the military and he's also popular with the plebeians, kind of the majority of the population. Pompey says, hey, you can't cross this Rubicon River or else we're going to have a problem. So Caesar, kind of wanting the power and wanting the right to kind of go back to Rome, he crosses the Rubicon. This is going to start a civil war. Obviously, there's a lot of things that go on, battles, intrigue, stuff like that. But what you need to know is that Caesar's going to win, and he's going to take control of Rome. Okay, so he's going to establish himself as kind of this absolute ruler, kind of like a monarch or a dictator. And he's actually going to try and help the people. Okay, the plebeians like him because he's going to help them out. He's going to create jobs for them through public works. He's going to expand citizenship. So he kind of says, hey, let's build some public roads, or let's build some aqueducts, or let's do some jobs that will get these plebeians employed, get them some money, get them some food, maybe a shelter over their head, and it's also going to benefit the city because we're going to have some nice aqueducts, some nice roads, stuff like that. So let's put them to work. Unfortunately, this creates fear and jealousy amongst the senators and the patricians because they don't like how much the plebeians like him. They're kind of scared of the plebeians. They're kind of scared of Caesar having too much power. Eventually, he's going to get assassinated on the steps of the Senate on March 15th, 44 BCE. And kind of the quote that goes along with that is, "Beware the Ides of March." The Ides of March. When he says the Ides of something, it's the 15th of the month. So the 15th of the month, someone had predicted that bad things would happen to Caesar on that day, and of course they did. And the quote, "E tu, Brute," it kind of means even you, Brutus, because Brutus was one of his friends, or at least so he thought, and Brutus was actually one of the guys who stabbed him and killed Caesar on the Senate. So Caesar's kind of last words were, "Even you, Brutus," or "You too, Brutus." And Caesar was very surprised, obviously, and that's kind of the end of Caesar. And we'll see kind of what this leads into when we look at our next video.